This is Mission Transition, a podcast powered by still serving veterans. Here, those who've served open up about what comes after the military, the questions, the breakthroughs, and the lessons learned. Because transition isn't the end of the mission, it's the beginning of the next one.
Good afternoon to another edition of Mission Transition with still serving veterans here on the 24th of February. I'm really excited about today's show. I got Mr. James Welch. He is my former boss twice and while we served in the military. So I'm really excited to have him on here. So with that being said, sir, tell us a little bit about yourself, background, give us an introduction to who you are.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, Corey. It's always an honor to speak with you, but especially in this format. So I appreciate it very much. But as for me,
Yes,
I served over 26 years in the U.S. Army. I started off as an infantry officer before moving over to military intelligence, and that's where I spent the majority of my career. And luckily for me, I ended up in Huntsville, Alabama, at Redstone Arsenal. And being that was my last two assignments in the Army, my family and I decided we were going to retire here and plan our roots here in Alabama, and that's what we've done.
Nice. Yes, sir. And I always found your story of what motivated you to join. I always liked the story where you said you were in college, had long hair, were sitting chilling. So what was the motivation for a long-haired hippie guy from Arkansas to join?
Well,
Pine Bluff, right? Weren't you in Pine Bluff area?
That's right. Originally from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Now, I always knew I was going to serve in some capacity. Everyone in my family had served to some extent. Both my grandfathers had served in World War II. All my great uncles had some Vietnam veterans. So I knew I was going to serve in some capacity. But while I was in college at the University of Central Arkansas, I was having a good time playing rugby and growing my hair out. And both my brothers played college football, but I'm a little bit shorter than them, so I went for rugby instead. But yeah, I just happened to be walking by the ROTC building, and I had actually gone to ROTC my freshman year, stopped by to talk to the cadre, and they didn't act like they were interested. So I figured, okay, well, I'll try again later. Fast forward to the end of my sophomore year in college. I'm passing by the building. I see a big sign for scholarships. And I walked up to the non-commissioned officer standing outside, and I put that long hair behind my ears and asked him what kind of scholarships they had. And lo and behold, they sent me off to basic training that summer, and that's all she wrote. That got me started in my Army career.
Yes, sir. And I guess I should have started off with letting people know that I was your XO. I was a battalion XO for a while, for like 2 years. And then you went on to be my brigade commander. So that's another reason why I found it kind of neat to be able to run into you again. And then also while I was in this job, your name landed in my queue. And I was like, holy crap. My boss, what's going on? So that was kind of neat, and that's happened twice. I've had another guy, what was his last name? I'll think of it. But anyways, I've had two people from the recruiting, Huntsville 2nd Brigade recruiting positions come across my desk. So with your long career, sir, what was some of the defining moments that you had? And what would you consider some of your defining moments?
That's a great question. I think, Corey, when you think about our generation of service, certainly deployments overseas and being in combat environments, there's all sorts of situations I can think back to that helped kind of shape me, and they were challenging. But you brought up something that was very important. A lot of people don't realize just how challenging recruiting is in the military, whether it's Army or whatever. And I served in recruiting for our audience on 4 different occasions. I served as a company commander, as a captain.
Right.
I served as aide-de-camp for the commanding general of Army Recruiting Command. And then I served as a battalion and a brigade commander. So I guess I couldn't get it right the first time. They just kept throwing me back in there. But but I'll tell you, when I first went to recruiting as a captain, I just returned from my first deployment to Iraq in at the end of 2004. and I was trying to find a command there. I was at Fort McPherson in Georgia, and I just couldn't find one. But I kept hounding my assignments officer, and they said, "Okay, you're going to get what you asked for. You're going to get a command in recruiting." So I called the guy that I was replacing there in Peachtree City, Georgia, and all he could tell me was how easy it was. Oh, this is such an easy job. And I thought, you know what? After being in Iraq, and I'm ready for something easy. And I showed up with that job. We changed command. My second day in command, my first sergeant went to the first sergeant's course, and I was alone for 3 weeks. And
oh my word!
It was It was horrible. The first sergeant gets back. First sergeant got back, and I said, "First sergeant, I've been working from dawn till dusk, or beyond that every day, and I can't even keep my head above water. What's happening?" I was told by my predecessor this job's going to be easy, and he said, "Well, sir, the last guy was getting out of the Army. He didn't care. You care." And you know what? It was the most challenging job I ever loved. And I loved it so much. That's why I kept asking to go back, because I felt like, number one, I wanted to help those recruiters who are working so hard to fill the ranks of the Army. I felt like I could help them, and I also enjoyed it. It's challenging work, but you're filling the ranks of our military, and you're also giving some wonderful opportunities to young people. And although challenging and difficult at times, man, it was such a rewarding experience. That's why I kept going back to it.
It reminds me of a story when I took over Texarkana recruiting command. We're on the production call, right? And I had a interim first sergeant that was a station commander, one of those deals, and they got on there and said, reporting the projections to the battalion leadership, and they said, "Sir, Sergeant Major, we don't have any projections this week." And I was like, "Is that bad?" I don't know. Is that bad? No projections for the week? So I was definitely. I was the same thing. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be in the. I was in Texarkana. I'm going to be in the South. There, it's going to be a walk-in market, no problems." And quickly found out that was not the case.
That's right.
Not the case. So tell us about what triggered you to transition out of the military. Was it just your family, where your family was? You guys grew some roots, landed in a good city to transition out. Tell us about your thought process of the family thought of transitioning out.
Yeah, Corey, I never intended to make a career out of the Army. I was going to do that initial term of service and then go to law school. And of course, 9/11 happened, and that kind of extended my stay in the Army. And before you knew it, I had 10 years. And then I said, "Okay," I told my wife, "We're just going to do 20 years and get out." And of course, it's things happen with command and other opportunities. It kept stretching out to 26. But in that process, I missed out on so much of the lives of my older children. I wasn't, after my last job in the Army, I knew I was going to either move or get deployed somewhere. And I wasn't ready to do that. I wanted to be with my family and just be a dad and a husband. And we figured Huntsville was a wonderful place, and why not just plant roots here and retire. And I was very, very fortunate. The Army treated me very well on the way out. They actually gave me, after my first job at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, understanding that I wanted to plant roots here, they gave me a second job at Redstone so I could prolong my stay in the Army for a couple of years and then retire. And it was certainly a family-oriented decision. I enjoyed the Army. They treated me very well on the way out. So it was all about the family and getting some stability for them.
Great. Yeah, same here. I knew that I wanted to, when I retired, I wanted to get back to Huntsville. It's where I'm from, and get my son at least, a good quality amount of time in high school, and just make sure that the family's taken care of. I think that's when most people transition out, that obviously that have been in retiring part of it, that, what you got to take it, what's going on with the family.
That's right.
What's going to happen with the family, where we are, kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, and I
So
was
talk
very
about your transition. Oh, so go ahead.
no. I was just going to say I was very pleasantly surprised with how well everyone in the Army understood that dynamic you just described, right? When you are a field grade officer, you've been in 20 years. Uh, I was very happy with the assignments officers, the generals that I worked for. They all understood. Hey, you know, you've done your time. You've deployed
Right.
to Iraq and Afghanistan on numerous occasions, and we understand you want to be with your family. So we're going to help you with that process as best we can. So that
Right.
was very refreshing. I was not honestly expecting that, but they
Mm,
certainly showed some appreciation for my years of service, and for that I'm very
that's great.
grateful.
Sure. That's great. So let's talk about that, the Army providing you or that your leadership providing you that understanding of transition. What did you find the hardest part about your transition or retirement portion of your career?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was probably letting go. Right, my
Mm,
last job in the Army, I had mostly a civilian staff, and my executive officer was a civilian. He had retired from the Army
mm,
many years ago. And he had told me when I started the retirement process, you know, I just continued to work like I normally worked, right? And he came in one day and
right.
said, hey, sir, you know, we appreciate all that you're doing, but you've got to let go a little bit. Let us absorb some of those tasks so that you can focus on, you know, your transition, whether it's, you know, getting all your medical appointments taken care of, you know, making your resume, you know, doing internships, whatever. Let us help you with that. And I appreciated that because that was an eye opener for me. Like, wow, he's right. I mean, I've only got at that time, I don't know, maybe a year left in the Army, and I've done nothing. And
Right.
so I think that's the biggest thing for me was stepping back and focusing for the first time in my career, focusing on me, which it was hard. I felt very selfish doing that, but you have to some
Sure.
degree, or else
Sure.
you're gonna leave the
Yeah.
service ill prepared. And I would, you know, that's the other thing too is for anybody who's in charge of service members that are serving on active duty, you
Mhm.
have to give them that
Right.
grace and that time. Yeah, they may be in an important job. I get it, but you still owe them that opportunity to transition out and take care of themselves.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think that's. I run a lot of whether people are retiring or transitioning out of the military, finding that space to do all those things because common knowledge, maybe not common knowledge, but the common saying is, especially when you're retiring, take about a year out to get everything going, get your medical going, get your all your whether it be you're establishing connections, whether it be if you're going to move, getting those kind of things, getting your household goods set up, all that stuff. So that was great that you had a supportive team as well as I did too.
Oh
So
yeah,
I want to
no,
talk about the. So we talk about that transition. I know we worked together a little bit on that, but I really want to talk about what you're doing now. I think that is such a great story. Is that the little bit I know about it? It was a little bit of it wasn't a job didn't come right away, right? And you pivoted, or maybe you always had it in the back of your brain you're going to do the what you're currently doing now. I know it's not you updated recently. It's not just recruiting solutions. What is it? It's recruiting and
so we're doing sales now, so sales and recruiting
okay,
solutions. That's right.
sales and recruiting, right? Yep. So I thought that was very cool to do that, and then for our listeners to know that how deeply ingrained you are in the recruiting aspect. You've also written a book about
I have,
recruiting. So
yeah, I
talk to us
have.
about talk to us both about what motivated you to write the book, and then what motivated you to take on going on building your own company. So talk to us about that.
Sure. Well, as you said, it was kind of always in the back of my mind. And as I was going through the Army's transition assistance program, you know, they give you some offerings outside of the normal coursework. And one of those was a program called Boots to Business. And what it is, it's
Mm.
sponsored by the Small
Hmm.
Business Administration. And for us here in Huntsville, the Mississippi State University actually works in conjunction with the Small Business Administration to provide these free courses. So, I took that class to get an understanding of what does it take to create a small business. And it was very, very powerful.
Right.
I had no idea the difference between an S corp and an LLC, none of that stuff. So they walk you through that.
Right.
And then if you choose to, they offer a follow-on course, and that's called Revenue Readiness. And that's where some additional instructors walk you through how to create a business plan all the way through. And you have weekly assignments where you're slowly building this business plan. And I had that, because of my background in recruiting, I wanted to create a consulting and training company. Now, I didn't honestly, Corey, think that I was ever going to do that. I was just doing it for fun, right? I had some extra time and I was interested in it. So I did that. And in the midst of that, I'm also writing the book as I go because, I just had a lot of notes over my years in recruiting. I thought maybe this can help somebody.
Right.
So fast forward all through that process, I'm beginning to start interviews. Now at this point, I'm maybe 2 or 3 months from actually retiring from the Army. And
at the cliff.
I'm at the cliff, man. And I start doing these interviews. The first, let me back up for 1 second. I had signed up, my chain of command graciously allowed me to do one of the internship programs, right? And that was a skill bridge for me. And I got into the Hiring Our Heroes Fellowship program, right? Which I thought, well, this is wonderful. I'm taking these classes. Now I'm going to do this fellowship. And you talk about challenges, Corey. I couldn't find a company to hire me as an intern.
Wow.
I've got 26 years in the Army. I'm a retired. I'm
multiple masters.
3 masters, part of a PhD. I was a brigade commander, and these people don't want to hire me for a free job. So that was kind of a gut punch. In fact, it was the Hiring Our Heroes people were wonderful, and they did try to help me, but the businesses weren't looking for someone of my seniority. They just weren't.
Right.
So I had to withdraw from SkillBridge, then reapply for the Army's internship program. So I did that and then found a local business to bring me on as an intern. Okay, so that's taking these classes. Now, fast forward, I'm done with the internship. I'm applying for jobs. And it was again, a challenge. It was very, very humbling that, hey, they didn't care anything about my military accomplishment. They appreciated it. But for these businesses, it's about the bottom line. What skills do you bring to the table to help them make money? And the few jobs where I felt like that they did want me, I couldn't see myself doing it. Like there was no nothing in me saying, yes, go be a project manager for this company. I didn't have the passion for it. So I talked to my wife. I said, hey, listen, let's do this. I've done this Boost to Business program. I've got a business plan. I'm almost done with this book. Why don't we just create this business and see where it goes? And of course, she's wonderful. She supported me in that endeavor. So I published my book. In fact, the spring of last year, it is The Art of Military Recruiting.
What's the name of the book?
Yeah, the Art of Military Recruiting, Lessons Learned from the Recruiting Battlefield. So I published that book. And I still to this day, I'll get DMs from people that have bought it and asking me questions. So that's a really good feeling to know it's helping people. And then, of course, the training and consulting business has been ongoing, and I've had some pivots. When you're a registered government contractor, and then the government stops using contractors, that's a challenge. Yes. So now I've pivoted.
Dang it. Yeah.
We're supporting sales organizations and law enforcement agencies as well with their recruiting efforts. So. We just got to be flexible. Wow. You got to be flexible and see where, where the path leads you. But I love it. It's fun. And the best thing of all is I get to control my own schedule. And as you know, in the Army, you don't always get that. So it's been a wonderful journey so far, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do this, and of course, my wife being so understanding to allow me to take this leap.
Sure. And I know you're really enjoying the time being with your son. Was he about 10ish now?
Oh yeah, he is.
Your son is in and around that age. So I know we had talked before that I know that with your daughter, you were gone so much that I think most people that had a career in the military in the time that we were in, you're gone so much, you feel like, there's just that little bit of like, you missed out on a lot of things. So I know that you're really enjoying that.
Oh yeah. Just the opportunity to take my son to school and to pick him up. Those are very basic things that I never got to do before in the Army. So yeah, being a father and being a husband, and actually being able to be present, that's a huge deal.
Right. It really is. And if you do, sometimes I use you as an example when I talk to people that are getting ready to get out and they're like 6 months out and they're saying, I'll start putting my application in. I said, look, about 3 months before they retire, they get out, and they have I think it's like a misnomer or something that when we're in the military, we have the thought that, when I get out, they're going to see all this experience I have, all this education, all this leadership, all that stuff. Of course, they're going to want me. I'm a no-brainer. Of course, they're going to want me. So sometimes I say, look, I have a former brigade commander with lots of degrees and lots of experience that had, his own trials and tribulations of that transition. So I always tell them to don't take it lightly, that transition out of the military. So speaking of which, what would be one thing that you wish you knew or that you could have maybe done a little bit different with your retirement / transition out? What would some advice that you would give about that period of career?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is, number one, don't take things personally, right? Yeah. It's not about, they're not degrading your service or you as a person because you're not being hired or selected. But they have these recruiters for corporate America, they have a very specific skill set they're looking for. And whether it's an engineer, a computer scientist, whatever it is. And if you don't fit those requirements, you're not going to move forward. The other thing I would tell people, in addition to being flexible, you have to network. I was never good at this because I always felt like networking was being self-serving while I was in the Army. But I realized really quickly that you have to network, and even if you don't know people. So when you're applying for a job, if you don't know anyone at that company, get on LinkedIn, find a veteran or someone who maybe has a mutual connection to that company, and just reach out to them. And I learned that lesson the hard way because I was applying for some jobs that I knew for a fact I met all those qualifications, no doubt about it. And then the AI technology that's used to scan resumes wouldn't select me. And I reached out to a couple of senior officers I know who work in corporate America, and they shared with me, both of them separately. They said, well, are you giving your resume to someone at the company? I said, well, no. They said, well, that's your problem. The great majority of hires in corporate America are by referrals from within the company.
Right.
Someone walking your resume in and saying, I recommend this person. They're much more likely to take a chance on you. And one company in particular, a worldwide company, they told me that if you apply online, regardless of your certifications and qualifications, you had less than a 3% chance of getting hired by their company. Wow. So my recommendation to everyone is network as best you can well before you get out. Look at an industry that you're interested in, start making those connections, and then think about your military network. One of my former commanders, who's a retired flag officer, he shared that with me. He said, think about your network that you have in the military, in the Army, all the people that you've served with, all the people that you've worked with across America and around the world. You have a network. You just have to reach out to people. So I began to do that a little bit after the fact, right? When I began my company.
Right.
And as I started my company, I was very pleasantly surprised how many people were willing to take time out to help me, like whether, to teach me certain aspects of running your own company. And then they would recommend someone else I didn't even know, like, hey, talk to this guy. He's doing something kind of in your field. He can offer you some suggestions. And then I had other people offer me referrals, like, hey, I found this company. I can't help them, but I think you'll be perfect for them. So the networking piece, beyond just finding a job, really, really helpful when you're building your own company as well. So network.
For sure. Yeah, that's one of the things that a couple of classes that we give, saying 60% or a large percentage of people that get jobs, it's because they knew someone. Yeah. So that's why and like you said, you really leverage that LinkedIn part of it. So that's why we at Still Serving Veterans help out with the LinkedIn profile and make sure that it is. And then making sure, I always say, make it part of your battle rhythm. Like people check Facebook or TikTok or whatever. Make checking LinkedIn kind of your, once a day check in, share a post, read it, skim through it, spend some time on it. And people like you putting their podcast on there, all that kind of stuff, that stuff really helps. And then making sure to keep those connections warm, keep your finger on the pulse with them, with those new connections and stuff like that. So what do you think? Here's another question. We're talking about lessons learned. What are some common myths about transition that you think that are out there? What's some things that I guess beware of type of recommendations or advice?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of different things. Number one is, again, you may have challenges finding a job, but it doesn't mean people aren't there willing to help you. And you have organizations like Still Serving Veterans that are there to offer a tremendous amount of assistance. And there's a lot of other ones out there. You think about all of the different companies that offer different veterans programs, Microsoft, Google, all these different companies that give you training, certifications, etc. Now, the myth is that it's easy to get into those programs and you can just do it on a whim. You have to remember a lot of these programs, yes, you can get in, but they're by cohorts. So they have a very limited time frame. And if you wait to the last minute, like I did, your retirement timeline may not match up with that cohort timeline. So what you have to do is even before a year out from retirement, you have to begin looking forward a bit and say, okay, I'm interested in, say, Microsoft's program for this, and this. Their cohorts at this time. And then you can go have a meaningful conversation with your chain of command if you need to, and say, hey, here's what I'd like to do. If you can work it out with me, let me carve out this time for this. And again, another myth is that your chain of command is not going to help you. 9 times out of 10, if they can help you, they're going to do it. They're going to say, yeah, hey, sure. If you need that time period, you got it. So you've got to be forward thinking, but then you also have to be willing to talk to your chain of command and communicate your needs as you transition. Do not think that you're being selfish. You're not. You've served in the military. You've done more than 99% of the population. You should ask your chain of command what you need so you can be successful as you transition out.
Right. And I think, yes, I think that communication as people getting out, whether this transition or retiring, is having those conversations with your chain of command of and have a plan available to them. I think a lot of times when if somebody's just, I'm getting out, it's their plan seems willy-nilly. It doesn't seem concrete. Then I'm not, what can I help out with? You don't have a plan for me to help. Right. So I think, like you're talking about, be forward looking, find out cohorts, be able to provide dates. I'm going to need 3 months off. I'm going to do this I'm going to do the skill bridge for, several months or whatever the time frame is be ready with a plan to present to your chain of command. And I agree. And how are you going to mitigate how it's going to affect the chain of command? Like what, I've been able to offload some of my responsibilities. Not offload is not the right word, but have, taken care of some of the responsibilities I have, so because that's the first thing a chain of command is going to do is how's it going to affect the command, the unit.
That's
the
right.
Unit's the number. I got to take care. I got to take care of the unit. How is what you're wanting to do affect the unit as a whole? So I think being able to say I have a plan, and this is how I'm mitigating the risk to the command.
Absolutely. And I think back to my time as commander, I would ask the same questions. You have to balance what's best for the organization and what's best for the personnel. And unless they give you that plan and give you that transition information, it's very challenging to make that decision for them.
Right. So getting last couple of questions, sir. So with how would you define success today? What does that look? So how long have you been retired? It's going on a year-ish.
I will a year of retirement next week.
Next week. Wow.
That's right.
So has that definition of success changed since you were in and now? Is it? What's your thoughts on how do you define success now?
Yeah. I thought back. I didn't think my identity was associated with the Army. I really didn't. I always considered myself like, yes, I'm happy and proud to serve. I love it, but I'm not Colonel James Welch. I'm just James Welch. But when I left, it was challenging at first to realize, I'm just a regular guy. Hey, I don't have. There's nothing special.
You don't have a staff.
I don't have a staff, right? Like you were saying, I do my own podcast, but I do all the editing. It's me. I do all the invoices and billing. I do everything. But that's okay, right? So my identity was before was evaluations, rank, maybe awards as you leave, all those sorts of things, and those are all wonderful and great.
Right.
But now my definition of success is: am I being a good father? Am I being a good husband? Do I have a good quality of life? And am I taking care of myself? Right? You know how it is in the Army. Sometimes, hey, you may do PT every day, but maybe you're not sleeping as you should. Maybe you're pretty stressed out all the time. Well, now, hey man, my level of stress is down here. I'm able to go for long walks in the afternoon and have a good quality of life, and that to me is the definition of success. Now, the quality of life that I'm able to provide my family, the presence that I have, and then just being healthy in every aspect.
Yeah. I think that's a good note to end it on. I will say I really like your what's the accoutrement behind you? Yeah.
That's right.
Talons out, baby.
That's what's up. That's right. The best recruiting battalion in America.
Roger that. I'm still one of a stick in my craw is that we did not get a unit award when you had all of your companies meet their mission, both RA and AR. The only one in the battalion that did it. This was circa 2013, maybe. No, later. 2021.
Yeah, we were the only ones.
19.
We were the only ones in America. 2019. The only battalion in America to do it. That's right. And no one's done it since.
Yep.
So
right.
Yeah, we did. We had a special team.
We didn't get a unit award. Yeah, we did. We did, sir. All right, sir. I certainly appreciate you taking your time out to join us, and we'll be sending you the link to the podcast, and hopefully look forward to working with you in the future. And is it sales and recruiting solutions, or is it recruiting solutions? It's recruiting and sales solutions.
So what you find is that after you create a company, you have different trademark names. So it's still recruiting solutions.
Oh, okay.
But we do sales and recruiting, if that makes sense. So
okay. Great.
Yeah, but if you ever need it, if I can ever be of assistance to anyone else who's transitioning or going through your program, don't ever hesitate to give them my name and phone number. I'd be happy to walk them through anything or share, at least my experience with them.
Will do. All right, sir. Thanks again.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Great to see you.
Transition out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to Mission Transition, a podcast from Still Serving Veterans. Have a question, a comment, or want to share your transition story on the show? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, social@ssv.org.